Once at midday in late spring, a dream came to me like a photograph. I saw Jesus Christ come down to earth. He came down the steps of a mountain, turned once more into a child, running and romping through the grass, and pulling up flowers to throw them away, and laughing so loud he was heard far away. He had escaped from the sky, he was too much like us to pretend. He was the second person of the Trinity. It was all false in the sky, all out of keeping. With the flowers and trees and rocks in the sky, he had always had to be serious, and now and then he had to become man again and mount the cross and always be dying with a crown of thorns all around his head and the head of a spike hammered into his feet and even a rag around his waist. Like the black men in the picture books. They didn't even let him have a father and a mother like the other children. His father was two people, an old man named Joseph who was a carpenter. And wasn't his father and the other father a stupid dove, the only ugly dove in the world because it wasn't from the world and wasn't a dove? And his mother hadn't loved anyone before having him. She wasn't a woman, she was a suitcase in which he'd come out of the sky. And they waited him. She was born only of a mother and never had a father to love with respect, to teach goodness and justice. How rebellious. One day when God was sleeping and the Holy Ghost was flying around, he went to the chest of miracles and stole three. With the first, he made it impossible anybody would know he'd escaped. With the second, he created himself eternally human and a child. With the third, he created a Christ eternally stuck to the cross and left him nailed to the cross in the sky, and it serves as a model for the others. Afterward, he went off to the sun and came down on the first light beam he could catch. Today he lives with me in my village. And he's a natural child with a wonderful laugh. He wipes his nose on his right arm. He splashes around in the puddles. He picks flowers and loves them and forgets them. He throws stones at the donkeys. He steals fruit from the orchards and runs away from the dogs, screaming and yelling, and because he knows they don't like it and that everybody finds it funny. He runs after the girls who stroll in groups along the roads carrying water jars on their heads, and he lifts up their skirts. He taught me everything. He taught me to look at things. He points out everything there is inside flowers. He shows me how funny rocks are when people take them in hand and look slowly at them. He speaks very badly of God to me. He says he's a stupid, sick old man, always spitting on the floor and saying indecent things. The Virgin Mary spends afternoons in eternity knitting stockings, and the Holy Ghost scratches itself with its beak and perches in chairs and dirties them up. Everything in the sky is stupid like the Catholic Church. And he tells me God doesn't understand a thing about the things he's created. If it's he who created them, why? If it's he who created them, which I doubt, he says, for instance, that the creatures sing his glory, but the creatures don't sing anything. If they sang, they'd be singers. The creatures exist and nothing more, and that's why they're called creatures. And afterward, tired of speaking ill of God, the child Jesus falls asleep in my arms, and I carry him home against my breast. He lives with me in my house halfway up the hill. He is the eternal child, the God that was missing. He is the human being that's natural. He is a divine being that smiles and plays, and that's how I know him for certain, that he's really the child, Jesus. And the child who's so human, he's divine, is this my daily life as a poet. And it's because he's always with me that I'm always a poet. Is this my daily life as a poet? And it's because he's always with me that I am always a poet, and that the slightest glance fills me with feeling, and the tiniest sound, whatever it may be, seems to speak to me. The new child who lives where I live gives me one hand and the other to all that exists, and so we do along, so we go along, the three of us on whatever roads ahead, jumping and singing and laughing and enjoying our common secret, which is knowing through and through there is no mystery in the world, and that all things are worth our while. The eternal child is always with me, always. My glance takes the direction of his pointing finger, my hearing happy alert to every sound is his playful tickling in my ears. We get along so well together in the company of everything, we never think of one another, but live together, the two of us, with an intimate understanding like the right hand with the left. At nightfall, we play jacks on the doorstep of the house, serious as befits a god and a poet. And as if each jack were an entire universe and would be enormously dangerous, therefore, to let it fall to the ground. Later, I tell him stories about the doings of mankind, and he smiles because it's all so incredible. He laughs at beings and those who aren't kings, and it hurts him to hear me speak of wars and of commerce and the navies that are left to smoke in the air on the high seas, because he knows it all lacks the truth, that truth a flower has in bloom. Because he knows it lacks that truth a flower has in bloom, which moves with the light of the sun, changing mountains and valleys and making eyes ache at whitewashed walls. Later he falls asleep and I put him to bed. I carry him at my breast into the house and lay him down and dress him slowly, like following a ritual utterly clean and maternal until he's all naked. He sleeps within my soul and sometimes wakes at night and plays with my dreams. He throws some upside down in the air. He places some on top of others and claps his hands alone, smiling at my sleep. When I die, my little son, let me be the child, the smallest one. Take me in your arms and carry me inside your house and dress my tired human frame and lay me in your bed. Tell me stories if I waken. Tell me stories if I waken, so I can fall asleep again. And give me your dreams to play with until whatever day is born. A day, and you know which. This is the story of my child Jesus. For what conceivable reason should it be any less true than all that philosophers think of and all that religions teach? What a beautiful poem. Oh my God. Fernando Pessoa, isn't he amazing? And these are his rebellious poems. This is his rebellion of telling man what is God, telling human beings, what is religion, what is God, and what we are doing with it. I mean, people are fighting wars over religion, killing each other daily.